This is things I wish I could say in Sunday school. I want to share some thoughts and ideas that are different than what we usually hear. My goal is to be really honest rather than inherently faith-promoting. I hope these ideas may spark some interesting discussions with your friends, families, or classes. Please enjoy. This is the lesson for June 22nd through 28th, 2 Samuel chapters 11 and 12, and 1 Kings chapters 3, 6 through 9, and 11. Today's topics are David and Bathsheba, what happens to David's family, Solomon's wisdom, and Solomon's wives. This lesson covers the end of David and also Solomon. I'm going to begin with David and Bathsheba. People make a lot out of this story. I've heard it all the ways. I'm going to share my view. David already has all the wives and concubines. He already doesn't care much about any of them. When someone has so much, what they have matters very little to them. Bathsheba is just trying to do some basic personal hygiene. She is in no way trying to be provocative. She just wants to clean her body in peace. David, on the other hand, sees her private moment. Rather than turning away and giving her privacy like any decent person would, he spies on her private moment. He's a voyeur. It's creepy, unacceptable behavior. Then he abuses his power and position to have sex with her. The power imbalance between them makes this extra creepy and gross. How is she ever supposed to decline his advances? He can have her or her husband killed on a whim, or destroy their lives any other way he wants. Then Bathsheba gets pregnant, and the cover-up begins. First, he tries to bring her husband around to have sex with his wife so they can lie and say the baby is his. Uriah's sense of honor won't let him do that while his fellow soldiers are at the front lines. Then David tries to bring the whole company back so Uriah will go home and have sex with his wife. But he still won't do that. It still feels wrong to him. Then David gives up on the plan to pretend the baby is Uriah's. Probably too much time has passed by this point for it to be plausible anymore. Then David puts Uriah on the front lines of a battle so he will be killed. It works. David's plot to cover his sin by arranging for Uriah's death worked. And David marries Bathsheba. But the baby is born in poor health and doesn't make it. It feels like they want there to be a weird morality lesson here, like the baby died because of David's sins. I don't buy that. These things just happen. Creating healthy babies isn't easy, never has been. David and Bathsheba go on to have more babies, including Solomon. When I think about Bathsheba and her complicity, I think there is essentially none. From the moment that an immensely powerful man became obsessed with her, she was screwed. All of the choices available to her were bad. It seems to me that she made the best of a truly awful situation. I think for that reason, many people place some responsibility on her, but I don't. I don't think she could turn down David's obsessive advances without being raped or worse. In the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, I've often heard people discuss this and say that David could be forgiven for breaking the law of chastity and having sex with a woman he wasn't married to, but arranging for Uriah's death was unforgivable. But David has always been kind of awful, which I covered in some of the last 2 episodes. He's shown extremist religious zealotry in his language against Goliath. He threw away his marriage to Michal when she criticized him. I feel like he often abuses his positions of power. This stuff with Bathsheba and Uriah just feels like a continuation of David's bad behavior. All of the descriptions of how good he is, and he is God's chosen, I don't get it. The lesson manual conveniently skips all the salacious, upsetting stuff that goes on with David's kids. But I think it's important. He was not the good person who made one big mistake that people try to make him out to be. And he definitely didn't teach his sons to be good people, because they are awful. This is 2 Samuel chapter 12. Amnon decides he wants his sister Tamar. I assume they are half-siblings from different wives because Amnon refers to Tamar as Absalom's sister rather than his own. Amnon has an elaborate plan. He fakes being sick so his dad will check on him. His one request is for Tamar to come and cook for him. So David sends Tamar to do that. Tamar complies. She seems like a people pleaser and does what her dad asks. Then Amnon throws a fit and makes everyone else in the house leave and asks Tamar to serve him the food in his chamber. He says, "Come lie with me." She says no. And she goes on to suggest that Amnon asked David for permission. This feels like a brilliant diversion from Tamar. However, Amnon ignores her and rapes her. Then he casts her out onto the street. She is devastated. Absalom takes her in. David is upset when he hears about it, but it doesn't sound like he really does anything about it. 2 years later, Absalom sets up a situation where his servants can kill Amnon. Then Absalom flees to escape the immediate consequences of his murder conspiracy. 5 years later, he returns and is reconciled to David. Later, Absalom stages a coup, and David is forced to flee. Absalom takes David's concubines. It's a bunch of gross stuff. And it goes on. These are just some highlights. Absalom dies, David mourns. I don't really have a thesis for all of this, but I think it's crazy that the manual skips all of this. David's children raping and murdering each other, considering David's example. David conspires to have sex with Bathsheba. I'm not 100% sure if it was rape, but it sure seems like it was close, if not actual rape. Then he murders her husband. I see the connection between David's horrible actions and the horrible actions of his sons. The next topic I'm going to discuss is Solomon's wisdom. Obviously, there were a lot of problems with David's older children. So Solomon, David's son with Bathsheba, becomes the next king. Solomon asks God for the gift of wisdom, and God praises him for that request. I really wish that we got more vignettes into Solomon's wisdom. When I was young, I liked the cut the baby in two story as a way of revealing the true mother. However, as an adult, it seems so unnecessary. Anybody who can read people decently could have figured out which woman was the true mother within a minute. Women are especially good at reading people. They have to in order to navigate a world that is especially unsafe for women. They have to constantly be tracking the people around them for threats to their safety. I think almost any woman could figure out which one was the real mother very quickly with a question or two, without having to resort to the crazy extreme of suggesting that we divide an infant in two. We need more women in positions of judgment because I think they tend to be better at it. Just navigating the world as a woman builds this strong skill set that many men don't develop because the world is much safer and more generous to men. So I question Solomon's wisdom. It really doesn't seem that impressive. And I wish we had more stories about his wisdom. The manual hits up Solomon's temple pretty hard. It's a major milestone, but I don't have any commentary about that, except for the fact that it was an extravagant waste of wealth. And it seems like Solomon placed a heavy tax burden on the people in order to pay for his vanity project. And we see the consequences of this for his son Rehoboam in the next lesson. Anyway, the last topic the manual highlights is that Solomon married many foreign wives and they turned him from God toward their gods. It's basically a warning against being open to other ideas. I disagree with that premise, but also it says that Solomon had 700 wives and 300 concubines. I don't buy that any of them had significant sway over him. He did not do anything that he didn't want to do. If Solomon gave attention to other gods, then it's because he wanted to. I think he was someone who was easily bored. A grass is always greener person. After his temple to his God was complete, he needed a new project to keep him busy. So he looked beyond Israel's own religious traditions. I think he also got some thrill from misbehaving. It was his own rebellion that arose from boredom, curiosity, and basically limitless power. It's unfair to blame any of his 700 wives. I hate the lesson manual's attempts to scare us straight to keep us in line with the church authority, making anything outside of the church look like the boogeyman. If the church and its teachings are truly good, it will come out on top without lame scare tactics. Also, Joseph Smith uses David and Solomon's many wives as justification for his own polygamy. So the hypocrisy is strong. The church blames Solomon's wives for leading him astray and uses them for justification of Joseph Smith's polygamy. It feels like the church just uses women for whatever it is they want at the time. That's it for this week. Thanks for listening. Please share with family and friends. Until next time.